So earlier this week, I had this understanding, or I spoke to my wife. I said, "How is it possible that as we grow older, many people they feel more intelligent?" And I experience this as well, especially over the last couple of years. It feels like I've become more. My brain is more powerful. Does that make sense? And I watched a video a while back where the guy said, well, I think it was Daniel Pink said that technically it's not possible for your brain to become, for your IQ to go up. It can vary due to circumstances, but it can't really go up. So, but how is it possible that we do, in many cases, feel that you're becoming more clever? I'm not sure if that's the right English word. And then I went and I thought about it for a while, and I realized that what I do is I write a lot. And if I give you some feedback, some background, is that I've been writing since around about 1998, every now and then, as ways to reflect on my mostly journey of faith. But since 2010, where I had started to struggle with mental illness, I struggled before, but then I was only diagnosed. I started writing almost daily, journaling sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, depending on my circumstances. And then I also started writing creating a technical journal. And the technical journal became a core of my research. When I did my PhD, that technical journal was critical because it helped me to pick up when I had an interrupt. When being an academic as well at that time, I had interrupt sometimes for up to a month, and I had to pick it up again. But that technical journal continued, and it kept working, and I started to write it deeper and deeper and deeper and write more. And often I would do derivations in there, and I will write my conclusions in there and so on. But over the last 3 years in particular, I've started to write more in terms of a reflective part, reflecting on where I am, reflecting that on a personal level, but also on a technical level, starting to process. And I realized that my writing has now become a way of processing. And I think since about 3 years back, almost 3 years now, when the AI thing, ChatGPT, came out, the amount of information on the internet has blown up to such an extent that it's very difficult to have everything at hand. And now what I do, I write about it, and I process it, and I relate ideas. And I think that's the core of feeling more clever, feeling that I can grasp more, is that the information that comes to me, I process. I have a pile of stuff that I work through. I don't always get through everything. Those that fall off. But the ones that kind of come back and stick, I work through them. How do I do that? Well, I write about it. I create relationships. I draw block diagrams. I draw mind maps. I pull them together. I work them into my Obsidian vault. I don't have a very well-structured, interconnected type of vault like other people may have, or that I'm supposed to have, I guess. I don't know. But it's a way where I store stuff, or I forget stuff. I lose stuff in my vault. But that's not the point. The point is that I work it into a context. And I think in the end, that's what it's all about. Is that information come to me. Sometimes it's knowledge, and not just information. And I process it, and maybe that's actually, now that I'm thinking out loud, that's actually creating knowledge, is processing information and processing other people's knowledge and creating it putting it into this framework. Now, I have a teaching methodology which is the same, and some people may know it, but it's called frameworks or framework thinking. And the thought is that classical education, traditional education, on school and on university and even in industry, focus on teaching people facts. You're taught facts, and that's the fact, and you remember the facts. And I always picture it's like bugs or insects flying in the forest. And if we look at them, the schooling systems say you have to remember where they are, and you have to kind of track them. And in a software perspective, that's like pointers to all these little things. But it's almost impossible because there are so many facts. And then the people who can remember that is called brilliant. They're called clever. That's actually not true. They are just able to have a good memory. They are able to memorize where the bugs are. But the better way of doing it is actually to take a spider's web and put a spider's web between the trees. And now what will happen is the bugs will come and they fly into the web. And after that, all you do is that you just have to find the bugs, and then you, in your brain, this is the web. You know where the relationship between the two bugs are. We call it in Afrikaans a gogga. And which is any little critter or thing or bug is called a gogga. And you just need to know where they are, and you just actually remember their relative positions where they are in this framework. And there can come a lot of things that go into this framework. Now that's just capturing, that's just the net. So now my understanding is that thinking is to find the relationship and new connections between these the bugs in your framework, the facts that you put in your framework. And then when we get facts and we place them on our framework, that's processing. And suddenly we're giving it storage space in our mind. You can say putting it on the shelf, but that's not exactly the same, because shelf feels like permanent storage, where the net or the framework is something flexible where you store it in. So, and now, if we look at that, that's thinking, is finding out, putting it there, putting it at the place, and then looking at finding these connections. But what is interesting is that my background being an electronic aerospace engineer in the area of guidance, navigation, and control, I've now started to work also into AI. And now a new spider's web appeared at the back of the first one. And I'm also thinking of startup companies and businesses and how these work. And another spider's web appeared at the back of that one. And now processing and thinking means connecting in another dimension through the first web to the second web to the third web. And once again, how do I do this? Well, with writing, with exploring, with connecting, with processing. And why is writing so important? Well, writing by hand, writing with your hand on paper. You can do it on a digital writer like the book's note, or on a Kindle or so. You can do that. Or the paper, what is it? Any other e-ink type of digital reader, you can do that. Or on a digital tablet directly connected to your computer. And I do all of these. But the point is, writing lights up your whole brain. When you write with your hand, you write from, most people write, you can write in Arabic if you're Arabic, and then you write from the right to the left. But the point is, writing, you start usually, me as being a right-handed, start on the left side of the page, cross over to the right and go back. And my brain is actually, I'm starting writing on my right side of the brain, which is my creative side, and then I'm crossing over to the left side of the brain, which is my rational side, and then I go into the right and go into the left. And research has shown that if you type, a small part of your front of your brain lights up, but if you write by hand, your whole brain lights up. So what does this say? Well, it says that you are in a creative way reflecting on facts. Okay, facts being rational knowledge, and creative is because you're now putting it in this framework, thinking in a way which is like kind of creating interesting ways of storing that and storing it in pictures, and maybe visually seeing this framework in your mind. And that's why you need to do that. And you also need to create graphics, because we have a graphical interpretation. We have a neural net in 3D in our brain, maybe 4D actually if we add time and so on. And now, if we do that, that is processing. and that is taking it in, and that is storing it inside. And now we go back and saying, why would I feel that I have more capacity for knowledge, more capacity to absorb? Because the stuff that I get, I don't just store on a shelf, I integrate it into my brain. And it's like it's compressed, because like we process neural networks, large language models, where we throw away some of the weights, make them smaller. I suspect the brain works on a similar way and stores the connections, but the heavy weight it throws away. So, am I getting smarter? I think so. Yeah, I think so. But I'm getting smarter because I can store more information. And the more I store, the bigger the framework, the bigger the place I can store information, and the more I can process, because there's stuff that's in there. And interestingly, I've got a bad memory, and that's why I'm writing so much. And it was very bad due to a depression, a long time of depression a couple of years back. But today it doesn't feel like I have a bad memory anymore, because I think I'm using another part of my brain to remember. And so what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I'm listing the importance of processing, the importance of taking what we have and not just putting it somewhere, but chewing through it and making a part of you. Does it take time? Yes, it does. It takes time. But take time every day and work through the stuff that's on your plate today, or that you remember to be on your plate today, and store that. And you will have to process through it again, and process through it again. But don't get an automated tool. Don't tell the large language model, process this for me. No, it doesn't work. It's like having the book under your pillow. The information doesn't magically jump into your brain. I've tried that. It doesn't work. Then you have to actually read the book. And this is the same here. So that was not 5 minutes, but you got the double whammy here, because this is 2 videos in one. It's going to 12 minutes. So, but please comment, and I'll share the link. Please comment on the link towards LinkedIn. I don't think there will be comments available on the YouTube video, and then all comments transfer to LinkedIn, please. But yeah, I hope that has value. We chat again. Bye-bye.